What's up, y'all? It's your boy Dabbin, and I got a special guest in the building. He's an entrepreneur. He's a CEO.
Yeah.
He is the job.
Yeah.
His name is Tyler Robinson, aka Kiddklutch. Introduce yourself, my brother.
What's up, Danny? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. So today we're gonna talk about one topic, one issue, and that's Pimping Preachers. All right, let's get into it. So you got a lot of these preachers who claim to be people of God, but then they turn around and be people of themselves. They have a fancy lifestyle. They claim to help the community, but they don't. And they have the tithe, and they're also hypocrites. But we're going to talk about one thing right now. We're going to talk about the tithe, specifically with these people preachers. How do you feel about the preachers in the church, these mega churches and all churches, preaching about the tithe?
First of all, I think what you just described, that's false prophecy at its best. But I think every preacher is about tithes and offering to a certain extent. But I think your false prophets, tithes and offering is everything.
Mm-hmm.
I get that you take money, it takes money to make money for the church and do things around the community, but don't beat people up if they don't pay tithes, they don't pay the offering and stuff. You need to find out why they don't.
Yeah.
Help them out, help the community. The church is supposed to be the pillar of the community. They're not supposed to be the IRS of the community.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with you on that, because a lot of preachers, they claim to be people of God, but then they always read the book of Malachi saying, will a man rob God? And da-da-da-da-da. But yet they don't help the community, or they don't know why they pay the tithe. They just like, oh, pay the tithe and you're going to have a blessing. Pay the tithe and you're going to have a blessing. That's a problem, because what if they don't have it? What if they can't pay it? What you going to do? Tell them to get out because they can't pay the tithe? You can't be doing that. Those are your people. Those are your members. You're supposed to be the pillars of the community, as you said. But instead, you have a lot of these people preachers. That's what I like to call them. Preachers that are crooked. That they always want. All they care about is the money.
False
the money. Yeah, like you said, they false prophets. What do you think about how these preachers are their interactions with the community? Like how they interact with the community. They say that, oh, we do this and that for the community and da 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 da. But you see the communities look like crap. Like we go on Beatty's Ford, you see a bunch of these great big church buildings, but the community is a mess. It's a shithole.
That's basically what it is, a shithole. And I always thought about it like this: where you see a lot of wealth, you see a lot of poverty. It's like in power. They say the big rich town, and I come from the poorest part. They always want to show people always want to see the glamorous and wealthy parts because it's the most appealing, the most eye-catching. But guess what? It's another side to that. You got poverty where disenfranchised live.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we shed light on that more, people will begin to take their part and do what they need to do for the communities. So I feel there's churches that do things for the community, but they're not doing it in the key areas, keeping that community safe. And I've had a thing with my pastor. He said he actually got together with other pastors within the community, and he said, okay, let's bring back jobs, let's do this and that, build some businesses and stuff, build a charter school. He said there were some pastors that were on board with it. He said, well, the vast majority was on board, but he said there was some, they was worried about who was getting the credit, who was going to get paid this much, where the money is going to go, who's going to be in front. And I think that's where it's at.
That's a damn shame.
You have people, it's not about we anymore, it's more about me.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to get rich?
Yeah.
You can't hold your hand out if you're not contributing to the pot.
Yeah, I feel that's messed up.
And I think that's what it is. It's more greed than anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you have greed, it's corruption.
Yeah.
And poverty is not of God, like preachers say, but how can you preach that sermon that poverty is not of God, but you're not doing anything to change that?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I most definitely agree with you. A lot of preachers, they do preach that, like creflo dollar, like poverty is of the devil and poverty is of the devil. But then when time comes to help the community out, they quiet. They pay some tithe, pay some tithe, pay some tithe. I'm like, hold on. Like, we don't have it. That's why I like my pastor, Pastor Jody. He is not corrupt because he teaches you about, hey, if you don't have it to tithe and what have you, then that's fine. We're gonna pray for your finances and everything else. And he's like, hey, it's not about the money. It's not about all that. We're here to teach you the word. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of preachers, pimping preachers, they preach what people want to hear instead of what they need to hear. That's what he was talking about this past Sunday. People want to hear what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear. And that's most definitely a problem. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is, we talk about the tithe, the community. Now let's talk about how they live these fancy lifestyles with these private jets and these limousines and these nice suits and stuff. But like you said earlier, they always preach about the tithe and they don't really help out the community. What you think? What's your thoughts on the fancy lifestyle like some of these mega preachers be living?
I agree that you can have a fancy lifestyle, but you have to have a balance. If you're gonna have a fancy lifestyle, let's say I'm in the music industry, but my people are starving. You can't have that situation. That's dictatorship in a way. The thing is, if you're gonna have a fancy lifestyle, you should be able to have that. That's what you're supposed to have in a way. And most of these mega preachers that you see, they started off with nothing. They started off with probably 12 members. They built the church from the ground up. So I think they should be able to live that lifestyle, but I feel that it's still their responsibility to take care of the poor and help in poverty. Because I feel with poverty, that creates ignorance. So I feel if you prey on the poor are more susceptible to fall for anything because they don't stand for anything.
Mm-hmm. Almost definitely.
Because they have no resources. They have lack of knowledge, lack of resources, lack of information, and lack of access to all these things. So if you continue keeping people poor, how is that helping the economy long term? Because people are going to begin to rob, steal, do what they have to do to survive. And you're going to see mass incarceration rates go up.
Yeah, I most definitely agree with you on that. I think that some of them can have the lifestyle, but at the same time too, you need to be helping out the community because they are your members, they're your people that you're supposed to lead. As a pastor, you are the leader, and therefore you have an obligation to help out your community, not just live in a limousine in these fancy mansions and all that stuff and get private jets and what have you, and not help out the community. Because it goes back to earlier what I was saying, how the tithe and stuff like that helps generate their wealth. But if they don't put the wealth back into the community, you're not really a pastor, you're not really a preacher and everything else. Because they claim to be, you can't be a man of God, but then not help out your community, help out the people you are called to help. That's what I think.
And I agree with you on that. When you're saying the tithes and stuff, I feel a lot of these preachers, they really do help out people, but not like the whole community as a whole. Some of them, I feel they help out people if they're in need and stuff. But I think what needs to happen is, if you're going to ask for tithes, tell them what the tithes really is for the church. Tell them, okay, the tithes is for, okay, maybe a building fund, making sure that the stuff stays running. There's a mortgage, the mortgage is getting paid and all that for the church. But let them know, okay, that's the tithe, but the offering is going to the operation of like the members, the musicians, your pastor, and other people that work inside the church. I feel they need to shed the light on that and actually explain, because if you think about it, the tithes in the Bible that they're talking about is different from what you see in this world. The tithes in the Bible was based off of you giving your time, you giving the animals up. You had to give a sacrifice or something.
Yeah,
it wasn't money.
Yeah, it was money. It was food. It was grain. It was like you said, animals, and they would present it they would actually go to the temple and they would present the tithes and offerings and stuff like that, sacrifice for the Lord. But what you have these pimping preachers do, they get up on there and say, read the book of Malachi. Will a man rob God? And you have robbed me. It's talking, and you look at that scripture, you read the whole chapter, you understand that the Israelites back then were not giving their best to the Lord. That's why he's saying that. Saying, will a man rob God? But yeah, these crooked preachers talking about how, you robbing the church. Basically, you need to give us more money and da 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 da. But they're not helping the community out. And they live these fancy lifestyle. And that's a problem when you choose fancy lifestyle over your community. And I think the last segment we're going to talk about here is hypocrites. You have a lot of hypocrites in the church who claim to be men of God, but do crooked, low down stuff. They cheat on. You have some pastors, they cheat on their wives. You got some pastors, they care more about themselves than they do their family, or they fornicate. They be robbing people. They be just run these crooked scams. Like there was a story about this pastor who run this crooked scam with housing and real estate, and that's a problem I have with some preachers. They claim to be men of God, but they doing hypocritical stuff. Like they claim to be, thou shalt not sleep with another woman, but you fornicating, or you sleeping around with members of the church, or you trying to have somebody be killed or stuff like that. You got a lot of corrupt pastors and pimping preachers, that I call them, that they just be hypocrites. They just be hypocritical. What's your thoughts on that, my brother?
But I agree with you on that. I think it's like this in anything. It's just like when we have corrupt cops. Not every cop is corrupt, but it's a few bad apples that ruins a bunch. And I think the same thing with preachers. Most preachers you may see, they loving people, they are pillars of the community, but it's the corrupt ones that we see at the forefront.
Yeah.
A lot of things. As you see, even if you see pastors that have a mega church, not all of them are corrupt. But we see it's some people, they may be jealous of the lifestyle or something, so they may put that title on them. And I think that's with any profession. If you start winning, people are going to hate on you. And I think with being a hypocrite, that's not good, because when you're a hypocrite, all you're doing is shining more light on yourself, because you're painting yourself as a perfect person. So when anything goes wrong, all eyes is on you, and they're ready for you. They're praying on your downfall.
Yeah.
So you're setting yourself up. You're putting yourself in a bully pulpit. That's what I call it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I just agree with you on like every one of these issues. And I feel like a lot of people
interrupt you, but I feel when you hold that position of pastor, that title, or if you have a position of leadership in general, you should take that position seriously. You should really take that. The position does not make you. You should make the position. Your character should elevate the position.
Most definitely.
Because I feel when you're not influential and you wasn't called, it's going to show. When you were just there by title, but you're not there by calling, or you're not there by purpose.
Because I agree with you on that, because that's what also one of my pastors, who Pastor Jody, he talked about this past Sunday. Some people feel like they called because he can move the crowd. Look how he speaks. He's been called. But it turns out it shows through his actions. Don't look at how his words. Look at through his actions. Look what he's doing, and time will show that if you're called or not. So I definitely agree with you on the being called part, and how the position does not make you. You make the position, because when you are a pastor, you are a leader. You are a pillar of your community. You are supposed to be a leader. The title should not change you. You should change the title. So that's how I feel on that. And what you think about how Creflo Dollar and all these other pimping preachers that have these private jets. What do you think about them?
Now I agree with you about what Creflo Dollar is. He should not have a private jet, but if he is able and he generates enough income within his church, that is his business. If he has a private jet, I don't think he's crooked, but certain things that he does and says that I don't always agree with, and then there's things that he says that I do agree with. But I think as long as you are taking care of your family, you are preaching the word and doing what you're supposed to do, you are in a way entitled to have the things that God has meant for you to be offered. But I feel you should never abuse your power, and that's with any preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Don't abuse your power and take it out of the plate. But if it's based off of what you are receiving as far as your salary, and you're using that money to buy a private jet or live this fancy lifestyle, that's okay. But if you're taking it out of the plate and stealing money from where you're not supposed to go, I don't think anything should operate like that. It's just like a business.
Yeah.
I feel if you are the CEO of that company, you should only be able to touch your salary as far as that, unless you are doing something beneficial to the business. You shouldn't rob the business for your personal input. And I think that's the same thing with preachers in their church. Don't rob your church for your personal gain. Don't make a decision for your church based on your personal gain. I feel when you hold that position, you should use that position to elevate people. You should empower, not devour.
Yeah.
And I feel it's like the same thing we see, not to get political, see what we see with our president. He's doing the same thing. He's using that office to enrich himself instead of using it to enrich the country.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with that.
Yeah. I most definitely agree with you, man. Well, Tyler, I'm gonna wrap up this episode, man. It was a pleasure having you, my brother.
No problem, my brother. Anytime.
Yeah, so awesome, man. Make sure y'all check out the Dabbin Daniel podcast, man. Every weekend, I'm gonna have a new guest. Make sure you tune in to the Dabbin Daniel podcast. All right, we out. And as always, you.